Captain Tim Holifield. It's Holifield. Y'all ready? All right, this morning, just before 3 a.m., deputies with the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office attempted a traffic stop on a vehicle that was traveling southbound on the feeder road from Sawdust Road. The vehicle failed to yield right away, failing to stop for the deputies' emergency lights and siren. It resulted in an approach to a already existing crash scene where the suspect vehicle came to the stop. As the deputy exited his vehicle, the suspect threw the vehicle in reverse while racing the engine, slamming into the patrol vehicle, knocking the deputy to the ground. The deputy, fearing for his safety and those of the emergency personnel that are on scene, discharged his weapon. The suspect stopped the aggressive driving. He was provided emergency life-saving attention at the scene and transported to the hospital. Deputies also received medical attention, and one was transported to the hospital for injuries he sustained at the scene. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Sheriff Henderson for any comments, and I'll answer questions following that.
Good morning, Sheriff Rand Henderson. Had another one of these officer-involved shootings today. We've had too many of these in Montgomery County, but thankfully, God has blessed us to allow our deputies to go home and sleep with their families tonight. So we're prayerful that that they make a full recovery, and luckily they weren't hurt on scene, and they were treated. One of the deputies was treated at the hospital and released. The other deputy was not injured. Our prayers are also with the family of the suspect, and that we also pray that this ends. That we're tired of the violent crime that continues to rise, and we're combating it every day to ensure that the residents in Montgomery County remain safe and secure in their homes. Got any questions?
Just a little bit of clarity. So the officer that was pursuing, he got out of his vehicle and then the person backed up into the cruiser?
Correct. He was in the process of stepping out of his vehicle. Correct. So the deputy who was initiating the traffic stop was actually in the process of exiting his vehicle, standing in the door. As the vehicle slammed into the patrol car, the energy and inertia from that knocked the deputy to the ground, being struck by the door itself.
What type of vehicle was the suspect driving?
I don't have that information.
Tahoe or a cruiser in the drill car?
It was a Tahoe.
The person that backed into the cruiser, were they struck at all?
Yes, they did sustain gunshot wounds and were transported for those wounds.
Do you know where or their condition?
I do not have any of that information right now.
Sorry for clarity again. So he backed up into him at the original traffic stop?
No, right here.
Oh, right here.
Right there. That's.
What was I going to ask? I had a great burning question.
Talk about the efforts of that deputy and about that.
The efforts of the men and women of law enforcement today have changed dramatically, right? They don't just pull people over and write speeding tickets today. They do counseling. We do mental health crisis. They have to evaluate for that. They carry tourniquets. They provide life-saving first aid, medical first aid on scenes. That's the kind of men and women you have serving you today. These officers, despite having to discharge their weapons, immediately engaged in emergency first aid to the person who was trying to injure them at the time. And that happens not just here in Montgomery County, but across this nation. And the men and women of law enforcement truly do not know when they pin on their badge and step in their car every day whether or not they're going to go home to their families. This matters.
The person who was in the fleeing car, an adult, a man, a woman?
An adult male.
Wanted, warrants, anything like that on him?
Nothing.
The crash that was already existing here, was that a minor crash, a major crash?
It was a minor accident. It was on the freeway. They did have the lanes blocked, right? So y'all remember the accident we recently had where a vehicle struck a fire apparatus. So the fire were there when they knew the accident or the pursuit or the failing to yield was coming that direction. They were able to communicate with the officers on that scene to notify the fire personnel, because we have an obligation to protect their safety as well. Okay, we need to get back down there. So thank you guys very much. Y'all have a good day.